Hello, I'm Nick Clark. You're watching Al Jazeera's continuing coverage of the developments out of Iran, Lebanon, Israel, and the United States. Coming up, a ceasefire under strain. Israeli strikes kill 10 in Lebanon, and Hezbollah ties truce to Israel's actions. War still a real risk. Iran's Revolutionary Guards warn they could return to conflict as talks with the United States stall. Iranians feel the pinch of 2 months of war as the price of everyday goods continues to soar. Aid agencies warn of a global food crisis as the blockade of the Strait of Hormuz chokes fertilizer supplies. Plus,
I'm Jonah Hull on the snowy Kazakh steppe, giving up the secrets 40 years on of the Soviet Union's nuclear tests.
So then Israel has renewed its attacks across southern Lebanon, breaching a ceasefire brokered more than 2 weeks ago. The military says it's targeting Hezbollah sites. 10 people have been killed, taking the death toll since March the 2nd to more than 2,600. The Israeli military has also issued a new round of forced evacuation orders for people living in 8 towns in the south. Most of the attacks have hit areas outside of Israel's so-called Yellow Line. The military zone extends about 10 kilometers into Lebanon from the border. Israel occupies the area and has demolished towns and villages there. Hezbollah says it's responded to those attacks with drone strikes on Israeli troops in the coastal village of Bayed. One Hezbollah member of parliament says, quote, "If the enemy adheres to the ceasefire, we will adhere to it. Otherwise, retaliation is our right." Let's cross to Obaida Hito, who's live in Tyre in southern Lebanon. So, Obaida, just give us the latest on Israeli breaches of the ceasefire.
There have been attacks throughout the day in southern Lebanon. Within the past hour, we've heard explosions here in Tyre, in the east of Tyre as well. There has also been a significant presence of drones and jets in the sky above southern Lebanon. There was a forced evacuation order issued by Israel in the early morning for an area that is one of the largest populated areas in southern Lebanon. That's Nabatiya, and that's where the focus of Israeli strikes have been over the past 24 to 48 hours, and that's making it extremely dangerous for tens of thousands of people who returned to the south when this ceasefire went into effect. And now that the populations have swelled in these southern areas and Israel continues to carry out these attacks, it's putting tens of thousands of people in harm's way. Now, these forced evacuation orders are not new. They've been issued since the start of this conflict in March, hundreds of them that cover 14% of Lebanon's land territory. Around 1,500 square kilometers of Lebanese territory are subject to these forced evacuation orders issued by Israel, according to the United Nations. They may amount, and other human rights groups, I should add, they may amount to violations of international humanitarian law. And even if Israel is giving these warnings to civilians to leave these areas, the UN says that it's extremely difficult for civilians to comply in such a short time, and the fact that even if they leave, they may not find a place that's actually safe for them.
We're seeing these new tactics, Obaida, aren't we, by Hezbollah, being employed by Hezbollah. Just tell us about those.
This is another issue that's become a headline in Lebanon over the last couple days. Hezbollah is now using a new kind of weapon in the battlefield, a fiber optic guided drone. This is a drone that doesn't use radio waves. It doesn't use GPS. It's made with parts that can be purchased off the shelf. Even some of the parts which are made from fiberglass and plastics can be 3D printed. Israel has reacted to the use of this weapon in the battlefield, saying that they were going to expand their targeting of the supply line of this weapon. And that's because this weapon is undetectable to Israeli defenses. Hezbollah has been using it effectively to target Merkava tanks, D9 bulldozers, and groups of Israeli soldiers from very short distances without having to deal with interferences from Israeli defenses, because they can control it from around 10 kilometers and guide this drone that's rigged with some explosives and guide it directly into the target, even though it doesn't deliver deadly blows to large large military vehicles, it definitely puts the Israeli military on the alert, making sure that the Israeli military considers very carefully where it moves and how it moves in the battlefield.
Alberto Hito there in Tyre in southern Lebanon. Thank you. Let's go to Jack Barton now, who's in Amman following developments out of Israel. So, Jack, Hezbollah finding this strategic advantage with these specialized drones. How is Israel rethinking its military strategy now?
Well, there does seem to be a broad consensus in Israel that the army was completely unprepared for Hezbollah's rapid adoption of these types of fiber optic drones, so widely used in Ukraine by both sides. And they've been throwing out new ideas. So they've been putting down more radars. The Air Force has put more radars on the ground. But of course, these drones can fly about 30 centimeters off the ground. So they're almost impossible to detect, even with radar while in the air. And because they're so small, almost impossible to detect before launch. They've also toyed with laser weapons they've been developing to counter drones. They've proved ineffective, reports say. And they are toying with weapons more like shotguns that don't need to be as accurate as an assault rifle and trying to take down a drone, but again, not so effective. Another thing they're toying with is putting nets up over troop positions, as we've seen in Ukraine, but trench warfare in Ukraine is very different than the battlefield in southern Lebanon. So again, with limited effect, and concerns are really growing in Israel about the safety of the troops there. We can hear some comments in the media reflecting the current mood.
Israel has no answer, not just for drones, but also for sniper threats, anti-tank missiles, and rockets. The troops need to be pulled out of Lebanon immediately. There is no justification for their presence there, and they are not achieving any objective. We are not going to defeat Hezbollah. Sure, we're hitting them hard, and we'll keep doing that, but there is zero reason to have soldiers on the ground in Lebanon. In just 1 month, we've had 8 killed and 30 wounded.
They go into villages and flatten them to the ground, demolishing the vast majority of buildings. This looks very much like what's happening along the buffer zone in Gaza, and that's exactly the point.
Well, Israel has been launching strikes deeper into Lebanon to try and hit production facilities of the drones, justifying these deeper strikes that way. But the word quagmire is being bandied around the Israeli media more and more at the moment. And it seems clear as long as these drones continue to injure or kill Israeli soldiers in southern Lebanon and northern Israel, that calls to withdraw those troops from southern Lebanon are likely to continue growing.
All right, Jack, thanks for that. Jack Barton there in Amman. Well, Iranians are grappling with soaring prices of basic goods as ceasefire negotiations with the United States remain in this limbo. Many fear conditions will only get worse if the war resumes. The US blockade on Iranian ports has all but halted oil exports and stopped essential goods from going in. The national currency has plunged to new lows. US President Donald Trump says he's unhappy with a new ceasefire proposal from Tehran.
We are seeing inflation, which, especially in the past week or two, has created anxiety among people, unsettled them and made them afraid. We are seeing prices go up every day, from the smallest items like eggs to the price of cars, gold and the dollar, and this is not a good thing.
The possibility of the war resuming is very high. Right now there is a ceasefire, meaning the reality is they may strike again. But I hope that does not happen.
Iran's Revolutionary Guard says it's fully prepared for a return to war with the with the United States. Deputy Commander Mohammad Jafar Asadi has issued a statement saying a resumption of war between Iran and the US is likely, and evidence shows that it is not committed to any agreements or treaties. The actions and statements of US officials are primarily media-driven, aimed first at preventing a drop in oil prices and second at extricating themselves from the mess they have created. Iranian armed forces are fully prepared for any new adventures or foolishness from the Americans. Speak now to Al-Miqdad Al-Ruaid, who's in Tehran. So, Al-Miqdad, the RIGC there making a statement for domestic consumption, or are they at odds with the political leadership?
Well, actually, this message came from the IRGC-linked personnel. Asadi, he is one of the in headquarters, deputy headquarters of the Khatam al-Anbiya, which is headquarters for chief here, chief armies. So this message, it's read here, it's written here as a strategic message, as it's for unity rather than division in the system, and it has a core message that we have been hearing from the Iranian officials over the past few weeks. They are repeating the same idea and the same core messages coming from different level of the leadership here. They are saying that we are not trusting Americans. We are ready for any kind of escalation, and also we need a declared end to this war and lifting the sanctions and also lifting the naval blockade. And also if we read this message clearly, that they are speaking about the political differences after this war become as unity, as one nation, as defending their country. So the core message here is clear that even at the wartime, we are united, we are defending our country. This is message have been conveyed from different officials here. We have been hearing several times. And also they are aligned with many messages came from the past proposal. We are seeing that this proposal now is refused by the United States officials, especially when it comes to the President Donald Trump. He said that he's rejected the proposal. The proposal for the Iranians is a red line because they are linking this proposal and these conditions by the maritime issue, which is the naval blockade, and also they are seeing that they are the red lines to not be crossed by the United States, and also they are demanding a trust from the United States. And this also came from this military leader, Mohammad Asadi, is IRGC-linked personnel. So the message from IRGC, the message from politicians, the message from top diplomat Abbas Araghchi, they are all saying that we are in unity, we are not divided, and we are demanding a declared end to this war, and also demanding a trust to and condition, clear condition before engaging any negotiation with the United States officials.
Now, Mehrdad, I'm curious about Iran's oil storage capacity, because that capacity is being very much tested, isn't it? What are the Iranians doing to mitigate that?
Well, definitely the oil sector and the oil production and oil companies at the center of this pressure inside Iran's, and also they are saying that the external measures have been imposed by the United States, the sanctions for decades, the sanctions on the oil companies, the sanctions also in the insurance, and restrictions on the ships that passing through right now through the Strait of Hormuz and Arabian Sea, and this naval blockade making a more pressure on the Iranians. Until this moment, there is no official confirmation about the assessment about also how this pressure affect the Iranian, but we sense that in the ordinary people there is a pressure, there is economic pressure, there is the high currency, they can't reach the global market, and also we are seeing a rising in currency. So the pressure is clear behind, the pressure is clear within the ordinary people, and also there is a pressure, economic pressure on the government and also on the country as whole.
Okay, Al-Mehrdad Al-Ruhayd speaking to us there from Tehran. Thank you. On Friday, US President Donald Trump said he wasn't satisfied with the terms of Iran's new proposal to end the conflict. He also signaled he won't be seeking congressional approval to continue the war despite growing pressure from politicians. Our chief US correspondent Alan Fisher has this report now from Washington, D.C.
A new proposal from the Iranians, the US president says it's not good enough.
So they want to make a deal, but I'm not satisfied with it, so we'll see what happens. Iran wants to make a deal because they have no military left.
Donald Trump says negotiations are continuing by phone. No return to Islamabad for the moment. That's only likely to happen if a deal is imminent. But the president says one problem is it's not clear who's in charge on the other side.
There's tremendous discord, they're having a tremendous problem getting along with each other in Iran. The leadership is very disjointed, It's got 2 to 3 groups, maybe 4, and it's a very disjointed leadership. And with that being said, they all want to make a deal, but they're all messed up.
One proposal that's been reported is that the United States will end the blockade of Iranian ports. The Strait of Hormuz will be reopened. There will be then concrete discussions on extending the ceasefire indefinitely, and then and only then would Iran talk about its nuclear weapon program. That is going to be a major obstacle for Donald Trump. He has made it clear Iran must commit to not having a nuclear weapon. Not now, not ever. Trump was asked if he would seek congressional approval to continue the war. Not needed, he insists. Asked if he would go in and blast the Iranians again if there is no deal, the president says it's an option, but he would prefer to make a deal. Alan Fisher, Al Jazeera, at the White House.
Well, joining us to tackle all of this here in the studio is Dania Thafa, who's the Executive Director of the Gulf International Forum, a think tank based in Washington, D.C. And also in Tehran, we have Mohammed Eslami. He's a political researcher, columnist and economist. Dania, I'd like to start with you. So we'll get on to Iran specifically in a moment, but just as the situation in southern Lebanon, this continual escalation, how much of a problem is that as far as the ceasefire is concerned and the positioning of the IRGC in Iran itself?
Well, it always seems like Iran throws its fellow Arabs under the bus and expect them to fight their war fronts for them. So I'm not sure what Iran is going to do. They said that originally the ceasefire had to include Lebanon, and they insisted on it. But as we've seen how it unfolded the last couple of weeks, unfortunately, there wasn't a real ceasefire. Tensions have been ongoing. Lebanese people have been dying, and Iran has still maintained its ceasefire.
Mohammed, what are your thoughts there from there in Tehran? Because from the Iranian perspective, many would say that the positioning of the IRGC with their latest statement that they're ready to return to war, perhaps it has been affected by the escalation in southern Lebanon of Israeli forces in the attack on Hezbollah.
I think that Lebanon and the Lebanese people is a very priority for the Iranians. It is very important for them. But you know that this is the Israelis' style of making problem for ceasefires, and the way that they are thinking, their interest is in a way to make problems for the people, for the civilians. So right now, Iran, I think the Iranian government is in very close relations with Hezbollah, and they are considering the negotiations between the Lebanese government along with the Americans and the Israelis. And right now, it's a test for the Lebanese government. If they can prevail and they can secure peace for the people of Lebanon or not. This is the test for the Lebanese government, not Iran and not Hezbollah.
Dania, from the point of view, you work for the Gulf International Forum, which is a think tank based in Washington, D.C., so specifically strategic affairs and geopolitical affairs for the Gulf. As the Gulf watches this whole situation, not just in southern Lebanon and the situation also in Iran, what is their take on this ongoing stalemate that we're seeing from both sides as far as Iran is concerned, and indeed as far as Donald Trump's America is concerned with their blockade outside of the Strait of Hormuz, and the fact that it's just we're not getting anywhere near resolution, it seems?
Well, each Gulf state has its own view, but I think there is an overarching perspective that Iran has shown itself to be a threat towards the Gulf states. Of course, there is disappointment about the decision for the U.S. to go forward with this war because they're an ally of the U.S., but Iran also had agency, and it chose to fight its war against Israel again with Arab states like it does throughout the rest of the region. And I think that that kind of messaging resonated with a lot of people and leaders throughout the Gulf.
Mohammed, so from the point of view of the IRGC, as I say, they came out with a statement and that they could return to the conflict. Is this the IRGC acting on their own volition, or are they delivering a message that's also offered in coordination with the Iranian political leadership?
They are in coordination. You know that the last 2 times that the Americans attacked Iranians in an illegal war and a war of choice. It was under circumstances that the Iranians were in negotiations with the Americans. So right now, it is the IRGC